All right, y'all. We have Texas to go over. We also have a possible retirement from the one and only Darrell Waltrip, and we have a brand new Xfinity slash Truck series schedule. So let's get right into it. I'm Darren Gilliam, and this is the NASCAR Weekly Podcast.
Green flag, green flag. I'll roll. I'll roll. He's flipping me out. Ah! Hey, yeah, boys, how about that? They cut. Busch is in the wall. He threw it off the track. Baby, that's how you do it. Get that second flag, son. Yeah, baby, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, and again, shout out to MDK for making that cool ass intro. I'm going to say that every single week because it is so freaking awesome. Anyways, I am joined here today by the one and only the Iceberg and Real Radman. How's it going, man?
How's it going, everyone?
It's good to see you again, dude. And also, just FYI, Eric Estep, he has something going on with one of his classes at the moment, and Danny B has something going on tonight as well. So they're gonna join us a little bit later in the show. So yeah, so let's get right into it. So we had Texas this week. So Jarrett, start us off. What were your thoughts of the Texas race?
I'm going to go contrarian again. And this one's, I think, going to make people a little more mad than the previous few weeks, but I honestly didn't think it was anything special. I think we've set the bar so low for Texas that if we're not just having one single file train for every little thing the whole time, everyone thinks it's a success. I don't think it was a horrible race. I think it was mediocre. I'd probably say 5 out of 10, especially seeing how it is a Texas race. Uh, I put a tweet and I don't want to like reference it too much, but I think it kind of goes with showing where we're at. It's like, okay, we didn't trip on the bar. Now we got to learn how to pass it. And I meant in two ways. One is just how low we view Texas. And then on top of that is the fact that it would seemed really hard to pass. Like, yes, they're closer, but nobody really could make a pass unless someone screwed up or they had drafting help. And that just doesn't grind my gears too well.
I mean, you're right to a certain extent here. I mean, for Texas, I had such low expectations for this race coming in, and I was like, oh, like I don't know about this one, but I mean, this package, it seems like it's perfect for a track like Texas. To be honest, I mean, just like the way that just the way the tracks, it's reconfigured now and stuff. I mean, we saw some good racing. We saw a ton of passes for the lead in this one. There were some parts where, like, the leaders were, they were so far out there. I think Jimmy Johnson at one point had like I want to say like maybe a 3-second lead just all by himself with no drafting help. His car was pretty good early on. So, Rabin, what were your thoughts on the race?
Um, I am still not a fan of what the direction they're going in. Texas is my least favorite track on the circuit. Just so the people know, I didn't watch the entire race. I was at Universal Studios actually in Orlando, but I was keeping track on it. I was keeping tabs, popping in and out, seeing. Basically, I saw the first part, saw some middle of the race, saw the end of the race as well. And it's just not the the thing is, you have to. The fans are very vocal nowadays about what they want. They want closer racing. They want better passing. They want things like that. But there's ways that I think you can achieve it, and it's not in the direction that's going in right now is not the right direction. I because I haven't put my input on Atlanta or Vegas or Auto Club or a lot of those races, but I kept track on those races. And then Texas came up as well. Um, Martinsville, actually, something that was interesting about the short tracks is how they have higher spoilers now at tracks that they still have 725 horsepower, which I thought was idiotic because that's just the 2015 package, and I don't know whose decision was. Maybe it's because you can't. I guess you don't want different spoilers throughout the season and all this stuff. It's cost worthy. I don't know what the reason is, but it's ridiculous that they went back to that. For the short tracks, is now it's going to make Bristol a ridiculous endurance kind of crazy race where it's going to be dirty air everywhere because the car is going to be going so fast through the corners, and actually saw dirty air at Martinsville for the first time in a while because
Yeah.
the spoiler is just so massive, and it's causing a lot of turbulent air to come off the back. Um, that was actually my biggest problem with the season so far. was what they did at the short tracks and what they did with the 725, because I didn't think that was a thing. I thought they were just going to keep the low downforce and whatever, the package we had last year, but they put that big spoiler on there, and it was I don't understand the reasoning for that. The mile and a halves are
Go ahead.
like especially Texas, the whole qualifying format, the race itself, I don't find anything enjoyable right now.
Oh, yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah,
So
we're gonna get into the qualifying format
yeah.
a little bit here and stuff, but really quick, Reverend Rasheem Stort with the $2.50 super chat. Thanks, man, appreciate it. He's asking, do you like to see Daytona end the season? No, absolutely not. Keep it where it's at. The first race is the season. Keep it where it's at.
Daytona end the season?
Yeah, the Daytona 500.
Oh well, I don't think
No.
I put my theory forth, but I'll put it again. Is I think the direction NASCAR is going by 2030, Daytona, the 400 miler is going to be the finale. I don't
Yeah.
like that at all, but that's just the direction with this format and everything they're going with.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they do something as crazy as that, like somewhere down the road, along the lines of that. But I don't know. For the most part, I thought the race was it was watchable at least. You guys made some pretty good points. There's still a ton of issues with this package. I want to talk about like some of the major performances in the race though. We saw Jimmy Johnson leading a bunch of laps. He led more laps in this one race than he did all of last season. I think all of last season he led a whopping total of 42 laps. Yeah, like Jimmy Johnson leading 42 laps the entire season. That's pretty unheard of. And then Daniel Suarez, man, gets a top 3 finish, dude. Like they seem to be hitting their stride. They were struggling a little bit to start off the season. They're starting to pick up some momentum. And also Team Penske, they went from hero to zero in a week's time. Brad Keselowski had engine problems. Logano also had some engine problems, and freaking Ryan Blaney's like the most snake-bitten driver at times, man. I swear. When you talk about snake-bitten drivers in the Cup Series, he was leading the race, and then all of a sudden he has problems. So that's really unfortunate. And then you also saw Chase Elliott leading some laps and stuff too. But also, I guess last but not least, Denny Hamlin. Remember? Do you guys remember when we were talking about Hamlin's on the hot seat? Anyone remember that?
Yeah, I feel stupid for saying that because I think right now with coming out winning 2 races right off the bat, and then with FedEx being so much behind him, I don't see any reason unless he retired or chose to leave that 11 car is going to change anytime soon. And I kind of feel like unless he puts together an amazing season, that win kind of sealed Eric Jones's fate at Gibbs. If Truex doesn't leave with and doesn't have sponsorship problems and performs well, Kyle Busch isn't leaving, and then if Hamlin has that sponsorship behind him and now is performing, and there's no change there, and then there's Eric Jones, who is sort of the odd one out with Christopher Bell right there. No. So if they choose to have Christopher Bell with just the centralized Gibbs, I don't see Jones staying there.
I mean, Levine Family Racing, they have talked about starting a second team. Would you see Bell possibly driving for them in 2020, maybe, if they started up a second program?
Maybe. It depends on if they can get the money for it. At this point, with how teams are with the sport and everything and sponsorship, I think it'd be really difficult. But if they have Toyota backing and everything, I don't see why they couldn't. So I hope so for both those drivers' sake, because I think both of them deserve a Cup ride at this point.
I don't know, Radman. Did you ever think that Hamlin would have such a terrific start to the season?
He's always capable of it. I think he's the best driver without a championship. Should have won in 2010. I always say that. He choked it away.
Yeah.
He's really good at short tracks. He's a great driver. He should be a championship driver. He just hasn't done it yet. So, no, it doesn't surprise me when I see him win. I'm really not shocked at all. It's just whether he can actually put a season together and then win a championship. It wouldn't surprise me, but he was getting on the hot seat a little bit because I think he lost a little bit of confidence. And but now with I think with his abilities at the short tracks, probably in the future, NASCAR going to more short tracks, it'll play into his favor. And I think eventually, if he stays at Gibbs and stays at the 11, has the backing of FedEx, then if he can pull through, he'll win a championship one day. In the format that's currently in, really anyone can when it comes to the final race, but he can one day. So no, it doesn't surprise me that he's been doing well.
Yeah, he's in my top 5 of like greatest drivers never to win a title right now. He's number 5. I mean, obviously to me, Mark Martin and Carl Edwards, like, they lead that list in that category and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I felt like he was being a little disrespected heading into this season, including from myself as well. Like, I did expect him. I did expect him to make the playoffs, but like I didn't expect him to win like 2 races right off the bat. You know, if anything, I was expecting someone like I was expecting his teammate MTJ to do that. So it's pretty good to see him off to a good start. I guess the last question with this race review is out of 10, what's your guys' rating for Texas?
5. I'd give it a 5. It wasn't anything special. I wouldn't say it was horrible, seeing how it was better than most Texas races in the post 2014 Gen 6. So again, I liked Atlanta and Las Vegas better. Like, I think that this is in the top half of races this year, but that's not really speaking very well of how well this year has gone to this point and where it's turned to.
Radman?
Yeah, I think 5 or 6. My reasonings for it is just, the car itself and the package. Really, I'm not a believer in this style of racing. I think track position means too much. But to be honest, I mean, again, I didn't see the entire race, but I noticed, if Jimmy can lead the first half and then gets back into 15th and then can't move up, and then Chase gets up there, falls back, can't move up, and then Blaney blows up, and I understand that, there's a lot of different leaders, and that's what fans want to see, and it's stats, green flag passes, or different leaders, or whatever, and that skews what you're actually seeing. What I'm seeing from my standpoint, and from what the teams and drivers talk about often, is that track position means more than ever, and that's not a good thing. And so it's not the style of racing I like. I can't enjoy drivers being full throttle or in the throttle for a very long time, and then partial throttle or whatever, without having to touch the brakes, and everything basically relying on air around other cars and side force. It's just not what I enjoy. So I don't think I'm going to like a lot of the mile and a halves based off the first. Atlanta was, that track's unique, so I'm not going to throw that into where the package is, but Auto Club, Las Vegas, now Texas, it doesn't fit my eye. So but that's just my opinion. I mean, if fans enjoy it, that's the whole goal here. I just think they're just going in the wrong direction completely.
So really quick, Mega Joel, I think that's how you say that name. If I didn't say that, or Joel, sorry about that. Mega Joel with the $2 super chat. Yeah.
Play The Last of Us already.
Yeah, with the $2 super chat, appreciate it. He says Wheeler was holding Denny back. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Maybe. It all depends. I mean, at the same time, Hamlin also had problems with his back the last 5 or 6 years, so that could also be a little bit of why he's had problems. I mean, we saw that when somebody gets hurt or tweaks something in their back, and even Jeff Gordon had a noticeable fall off, and I think we all agree he's much better than Denny Hamlin. So it kind of depends where you look at the timing with all of it.
No opinion on that, really, to be honest. I don't. Crew chief driver relationships are interesting. I don't think neither of them hold back each other. Hey, should have won the championship in 2010. I mean, I'm gonna keep saying that, but I think Denny's a good driver. I don't think anyone was holding him back in any way. Just got to get over the hump. That's it.
We also have another $4 super chat. This guy says was highly underrated predictability and / strategy. What do you guys think?
Strategy was probably in my opinion, strategy when it went green was probably one of the better parts of the race. The problem is getting back to the track position racing, and then talking about how track position now is going to be more important than ever, and that's something that I don't think going to Chicagoland this coming year. I'm once again went from being more excited. I used to be more excited about the racing than the actual partying. Now I'm back to more excited about the partying than the racing, because I think it's going to be more of the same, and I don't think we're going to have anything similar to last year's Chicagoland race, which I'm pretty sad about. So I guess when it comes to predictability and strategy and stuff, that might have been the saving grace.
Yeah, I see a lot of people talk about they want lead changes and unpredictability and people that don't dominate, and that's just not motorsports. I mean, the history of all motorsports, you've seen people dominate. That's not It's not what I'm upset about if it happens. Like Keselowski leading 400 whatever laps at Martinsville doesn't make it a bad race. I care about the actual product on track and what it looks and feels like, both as a fan and a driver. How can I look at races in a different way. I think why I'm enjoying F1 a lot is because I can respect when Charles Leclerc gets in that Ferrari that he has to outperform his teammate and they have to deal with so many different parts of the car and also the racing and everything. There's a lot to deal with. And in NASCAR right now, it's put your right foot on the gas and see what the car has. And that's just not, I don't enjoy that. So strategy wise, strategy can make for a good race, but then again, the races are also 3.5 hours, so like some strategy in the middle part of the race doesn't really matter as much. And track position does play a big part in everything, though. So it's the way you look at the race. If you're rooting for a driver and track position's a big deal and they're running in 15th, you might be more invested on lap 100 because it takes a long time to get up towards the front. So it's all perspective. But I don't think unpredictability or that kind of stuff makes for good racing.
Yeah.
I mean, Daytona is unpredictable all the time. It's a completely different style of racing. So,
Yeah, I feel like the people who are saying that they wouldn't survive watching F1 ever.
Yeah, no, that's
there's literally like three guys who win all of the races each and every year. It seems like. So,
yeah.
So the next thing,
Real quick, I actually found it really funny. I think it was on David Land's video. It was a comment on somebody's video, but like a NASCAR fan was complaining that like only 3 teams win in F1, and then somebody like went, yeah, and really only 3 teams win in NASCAR either. There's like no response. It was great. I was like, they got a point.
Yeah, they got a point there, man.
Like, stop. Here's Kettle.
So really quick, we have a whopping 224 people watching and only 17 likes. Make sure to lick the like button, everyone. So make sure to do that. So the next thing, ratings. So Jarrett, give us the scoop. What was the ratings for this race?
The overnight was a 2.3. The final, from what I could tell, was a 2.25 with 3.7 million viewers, which again is better than last year, but that was on FS1, I believe, and rained. Or had rain as a problem, whereas 17, the last comparable one on Fox, got a 2.5. So, I mean, it's kind of like we were saying, if they can get anywhere near what it used to be even 2 years ago, then even if it's a small decrease, it's still a win. I'll be honest, it's a lot higher than I thought it'd be. I didn't think it would actually break 2.0 this weekend, so I'm pleasantly surprised in that. Even if it is how low it's gotten, it's not as low as it could be, I guess.
Yeah, like I was surprised too. I mean, you had a lot of March Madness games going on, especially like you had Duke versus Michigan State. You also had it was Virginia versus Kentucky, I believe, going on during the race for the most part. So yeah, I was pretty surprised by that. So hey, if it flatlines or if it's a tiny ratings increase, a win's a win. So I'll take it. All right, so since we only have Radman on for 30 minutes, let's get right into this topic. So qualifying happened again.
Yeah.
It happened again. I didn't watch it because even with these rules changes, something in the back of my mind was just telling me like, yo, don't watch it. It's gonna be stupid. And for the most part, it was. Clint Boyer was pretty irate after qualifying. He was accused of clogging up the middle, even though he was trying to advance his position on pit road, and Newman was trying to do the exact same thing, and then unfortunately kind of blocked him, and he was apparently clogging the middle, so he unfortunately did not make it to the second round. I don't know, man. Like, Jarrett, start us off with this topic. Just what's NASCAR's deal, man? Like, I mean, is it time for them to just, abandon this whole stupid idea of group qualifying with this package and just go back to single car qualifying?
See, as being objective, I think I'm not the best person to ask this because I've wanted group qualifying gone since it was since its inception. I've always liked single car qualifying better. I just think it's better for lower funded teams to get on TV more. And really, like I said before, qualifying isn't about entertainment. It's about setting the field of the race. There's no reason there should be a chance at crashing 5 or 6 cars in qualifying together. But I will find it really, I do find it really interesting. I'm not going to share screen, but I'll read it really quick. I decided to run a poll, and I used the 5 most popular ways to fix qualifying that everyone's been putting out there. And so I asked, what's your solution for fixing NASCAR's qualifying? And it got about 1,500 votes. There was single car qualifying, heat racing, random draw, start off points, or no change at all. Start off points got 1%, no change at all got 5, random draw 6. Heat races got 24, and single car qualifying got 64. So I mean, granted, you guys might be a little biased, but watching me, but I do find that kind of telling. I've seen a lot of single car qualifying stuff, and I think at this point NASCAR just needs to bite the bullet and go for it.
Oh, another super chat from Jasmine Howard with the $1.99 super chat. Appreciate it. Lower funded teams are commercial breaks.
Towards the end, they were.
Yeah.
That what Fox started turning them into, but for the longest time, most of them were shown unless it was like a 50-something car entry list.
Yeah. I don't know, Radman, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think something NASCAR needs to look at is they created a problem. They have to understand how they created the problem, why they created the problem, and then figure out how to solve the problem. They created the problem with the direction they went with the package. So that's what created the problem. That's how how it was created was the teams have to find a way to go the fastest possible, and the only way that's possible now is with drafting and all that stuff. And that's what this created. So everything that's coming onto NASCAR is due to their own fault.
But here's
So I don't.
hold on. But here's the thing though. You have people in NASCAR blaming the teams. For this
Yeah, I
issue.
know. I was gonna get to that. Yeah.
What's the deal with that?
I have a lot of respect for the NASCAR executives. I think they're very smart. They're not smart in terms of this situation here right now, though. They're blatantly trying to do damage control. NASCAR is a sanctioning body. Blame the teams all you want. You're supposed to sanction them. You create the rules. You oversee the sport. They have made so many mistakes this first half, and they can always fix it and change it, but they did this to themselves with this push for entertainment, and this is the direction that they want to go, is entertainment show. And it's just not, we're pushing it here with qualifying, and I understand they can blame the teams if they want. Maybe they didn't see it coming, or I find that hard to believe if they didn't see it coming, because the package you put in place asks for this. And then when you get to the race after 5 laps, it spreads out back into what you don't want it to be. So this is something that the package created, and now they have to find a way to fix it. They like to point, I think it was one of the executives, I don't know if it was Steve O'Donnell or someone else, that pointed at F1 group qualifying and how everyone loves that.
It was Steve O'Donnell,
But again,
I believe. Yeah, I think he said
F1 group qualifying, with they have an identity. They don't change their cars for qualifying in the race. Their qualifying works because each car does give each other space, and then it just kind of becomes like a rapid fire. Now, what also works with F1 is they have sets of tires, something NASCAR doesn't have, where everyone has to go on one set of tire. So a team can make a run in Q2, and then go out again in Q2 to set maybe a faster lap time because that's the tire that they use in the race. There's different elements in group qualifying in F1 that work, and then it becomes kind of rapid fire as you have one run at the first half of the session, then a second run. Then you go to Q2, one run, and then if the top teams qualify really well, they don't have to do another run. And then other people try to get to that knockout spot. And then in Q3, you have one shootout, everyone comes back in, then another shootout. So it's constant entertainment and constant. Everyone gets screen time as well, because one car comes across the finish line, and then 15 seconds later, or 10 seconds later, here comes another, and 5 seconds later, comes another. So that works for them because, again, the package that they have, it sticks to their identity, and it's just rapid fire qualifying. Here, the teams have to do what they have to do to go as fast as possible, and that is wait until someone goes out first, and then everyone kind of follows. That is NASCAR's fault. That is not the team's fault. The teams are doing what they are supposed to do, like in every motorsport. They build their cars, and they find a strategy to go as fast as possible for a single lap, and that's qualifying. it's NASCAR's job to find the rules and the sanction it in a way. Um, I don't see a fix with group qualifying with the car at mile and a halfs because of the package they used. They can try any possible way of lining them up on pit road and saying when you go, then you have to go. Everyone's still gonna wait, and then we're gonna have a time slot of 9 minutes of Mike Joy, Darrell Waltrip, and Jeff Gordon just having no idea what to talk about. And then when it comes to 2 minutes left, again, you don't have that beginning session where teams go out, then come back in, then go back out because you can't change tires. So you just have this one little shootout at the end. It's a joke. It's pathetic. It is their fault. I would like for them to admit that, but they won't because they have too much pride. And it's not too late to fix it though. The only way they can fix it with this package that they have, I'm not talking about like 2 years from now, 2021 or whatever the heck they bring out then, but with this current car package or mile and a half tracks, you have to go back to single car qualifying. There's no other possible way. I don't. It's a step backwards, yes, if they wanted to modernize and develop the sport, but you asked for this. And then what happens with single car qualifying is teams are going to build the cars differently and try to make transformer cars where it can go really fast by itself and then be really good in the race. And it's two different kind of things. And so this is a massive problem that they created for themselves. I'm not really going to give any pity for them. And it's what they did to themselves. So
Yeah, I wouldn't give any pity either. I just want to play this really quick. This was on Kevin Harvick's his radio show called Happy Hours on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. These were his comments responding to Steve O'Donnell's comments about how it's the team's fault for group qualifying. Here's what he had to say.
How could we fix the current state of where we are with the drafting during group qualifying?
Well, one way is to not air your dirty laundry on the radio. I feel like calling the drivers out and saying that they're sitting at the end of pit road on purpose is probably not something that you should publicly say, even if you think it. I wouldn't flatter yourself with that thinking because of the fact that we're all sitting down there trying to figure out how to be first. And the best way to be first with this particular rules package is to be last. And qualifying is a drafting game. Nobody wants to go out first. And Daniel Suarez went out and made a lap by himself, and he was good with being fourth. And if it's coming down to NASCAR and the teams trying to outdo themselves, that's bad for everybody. He referred to the drivers having a meeting. Those were driver council meetings, private meetings that were held. And, I think a lot of us voiced our concern as we went into those meetings that 5 years ago, we've been in group qualifying efforts that drafting did not work. We all like group qualifying. Group qualifying is great. You got multiple cars on the racetrack. You got a lot of things happening, but it doesn't work when you can draft because you wind up in these situations. And I think all the drivers, have been in those situations from Xfinity or trucks or the wrecks that we had at Daytona. And we're just saying, hey, we've already done this before. It doesn't work when we draft. Yeah, the easy answer is to say, well, Daniel Suarez went out there by himself and went out and around the racetrack and made a good lap. Well, that's fair, but not everybody wants to be fourth. Everybody wants to be first, and all those guys are sitting at the end of pit road wanting to get the best draft that they can and cut it right down to the end is the best way to be the last guy in line so that you have to wait in order to try to put yourself in that position. So
I don't know, I felt like he was pretty spot on. What do you guys think?
oh, yeah, he's perfect. Yeah, it's absolutely perfect. This is what frustrates me most is that I just don't think there's a connection between the sanctioning body and the teams and the drivers. They can say it as much as they want when they talk about it. I've heard way too many times now how angry drivers are and they don't truly voice their opinions because they're scared of fines or whatever it is. There's not a true connection between them, and that upsets me and it angers me a lot because it's just not. This isn't complicated. It really isn't. It's just they created the problem themselves with this package, and then they're too stubborn to see what the best result is with it. I just wish sometime in the future there'll be a better connection between the sanctioning body, the drivers, and the teams. So I don't want to. I've been trying really hard, not to be negative, and I've been doing a good job of that. But I'm gonna start calling NASCAR out more and more if I keep seeing this because they're doing probably one of the worst jobs as a sanctioning body that I've ever seen. I'm not talking if you're a fan of the Miami Heat or something and the organization doesn't make the right signing, that's different. I'm talking as a sanctioning body. So your job is to overlook the sport.
I think it's the worst out of any sport, I believe. I would say. Is that a fair assessment?
It's every sport has its ups and downs. NASCAR is publicly known and talked about how they've been going through a down, but their desperate attempts for getting it back, they have to find an identity. And to find an identity, you have to work with everyone in the industry. And right now that's not happening. I don't know what they're doing. Qualifying is just a small part of this. There's a lot of other parts of the sport that just I don't see where they're going, and it turns me off. That's why I didn't really watch Texas. And if someone who I've watched it my entire life, if you're gonna get people my age to watch your sport and they've never watched it, but you can't get someone my age who's watched it their entire life to watch it now, it's a problem. And so just find a way to communicate better with your drivers and the teams. Like Kevin Harvick said, don't publicly air it out. If you don't want your drivers publicly airing out things, don't right after the session go publicly air out that nonsense too. Um, it's a mess from everyone that's in charge, and they really should take a hard look in the mirror and understand that I created the problem. If I was NASCAR, we created the problem. We have to solve the problem. Let's find a way to do that within closed doors and figure it out. They're not doing that right now.
Well, I'm building off that too. Like, you were saying that just qualifying is a small part of it. I mean, I've been saying this, and I think we all on the podcast have been saying this the last few weeks. When we had Jeff Gluck on, he was telling us how I think it was going into Atlanta or going into Las Vegas. They were just starting to talk to the teams about making the Gen 7 car and the design for it and everything. And they're talking about having it out by 2020. Like, it seems like on the outside, especially with how the sanctioning body seems to be, I mean, they seem completely buddy right now with Fox. Like, maybe NBC will be more that I don't think so, but more objective when they come around. But with Fox, it seems like everything good is being pushed out, and any detractors are really just sort of silenced. But I mean, it just from looking at them, it seems like the drivers are having less fun. They don't seem to be on race day seeming as happy, in my opinion, just from somebody watching them, in pre-race or in interviews. And I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of stuff, if it keeps going on, say, past the 600 into June, July, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot more drivers that start speaking up and if they're a lot more brash with what they say.
Yeah, I know I have to leave soon, so I'm just gonna say like some final thoughts. But I'm all for pumping up ratings and sending positive vibes, when ratings come out and like really pushing that. I'm all for it. I don't mind any of that. Like I want positivity throughout the sport. But like this is my biggest thing with NASCAR right now is that I can look at other motorsports and F1 is breaking into America's market because of their new owners, and they are slowly starting to break into America. I've seen it firsthand that a lot of people are starting to watch F1 in America. uh, they have to be very weary of what their identity is. And right now, they don't have an identity. They're searching so hard for something that they're not. They want to modernize their sport. It's okay to do that. Um, F1's done it. They have modernized their sport. Younger race fans watch Formula One because it is more technically appealing. Yes, the two teams dominate. We know that. But it's technically appealing. It's done more professionally, done with more respect, done with a lot more integrity. When you go to NASCAR, you see Michael Waltrip doing a grid walk and joking around with jokes that the modern day person cannot understand because it's not within our culture. So from everything from identity to how you like portray yourself as a sport through the two broadcasters that they have and the racing package itself, they have a lot to look at. I NASCAR is their cars are very technical. They could talk about it more. I think a lot of fans would be interested in seeing how these cars are built, but we don't hear about that. All we hear about is Michael Waltrip or DW saying really weird things, and it's just not.
Yeah.
There's no identity yet.
Yeah.
So that's something they need to work on, including the sanctioning body with trying to communicate with everything. And there's a lot that has to be done.
Yeah, I feel like last year when Michael Waltrip did his little dab in front of the Migos at Fontana, that said it all. That says it all right there.
Well,
with the whole
that's
disconnect.
that's the discrepancy in what they're looking at. They bring in Migos
Mhm.
because they want a younger audience, and then you have Michael Waltrip doing a dab.
That's
It's
my
like
dad.
you
That's my-
don't it doesn't you, imagine if Sky Sports on a grid walk went up to Sebastian Vettel and just dabbed. They don't. They go up to Sebastian Vettel and they say, "What do you think about today's race? What do you think about the car?" They're professional. They focus on the race. They focus on every team, and they focus on, "Hey, how are you gonna do in today's race? What do we expect from you?" It's a lot more professional. It's not just, "Hey, Clint Boyer. Oh, hey, what's up?" What are this isn't a joke. This is a professional sport. We're here to compete. We're here to win. You got to take yourself professionally.
Yeah,
And so that's
absolutely.
something that they need to do, and it's I haven't watched pre-race in probably 3 or 4 years because of it, and I'm not going to. So
Yeah.
whenever they decide to take their stuff more professionally, then I'll watch.
That's something I noticed a few weeks ago. A few of us got into Discord, and I watched pretty much my first ever from flag to flag and before the race, pre-race F1 race. And that's something I noticed about the coverage is just it. Not to I don't like comparing to other sports, but in this instance, I will. It felt like how a majority of like baseball games or football games are with their coverage, where they analyze. The analysts actually analyze instead of like you were saying, where Michael Waltrip goes and spills a taco on Denny Hamlin's car, and that's what
Yeah.
everyone talks about, kind of thing.
But
I
if I
mean,
spill a taco on a car, I get kicked out.
the
Okay.
first thing you see in an F1 race, I think right after the pre-race, like that 5 minute gap between when the cars roll and like so Crofty comes in and he's one of the best announcers I've ever seen in motorsport. Crofty comes in and he talks about we're here in this area. He doesn't give any punny jokes like when Mike Joy says like, "Oh, we're in wine country and you should do." I don't care. He just says we're here at this track. This is the facility. Then the F1 media group and the designers and everyone have this really good I don't know what it's called, but like when they show the track and they can have layers of it and the elevation and the turns and everything, just the design of their team, their digital team there. And Crofty talks about all the turns, and then they show previous clips from previous years about things that happen in those turns
Mm-hmm.
and the banking of everything and DRS zones, and they're just very professional with how they portray their sport. They're like, all right, this is what you got to know right before this race starts. Here's the tire compounds, the weather, all this stuff. I'm going to give it to you in this fast little firing 3 minute section, but go at a nice speed so everyone knows what we're talking about, and then the race is off on their way. It's so well done. It's miles ahead of what NASCAR do. Where NASCAR like to, I guess they talk to a driver. That's cool, you talk to a driver before the race, but I would just like to hear more. Like
Yeah.
NASCAR, they bring different tire comp. Technically, they do. They bring different tire compounds to a lot of the tracks. You can talk about it. You talk about
Yeah, but they
how
don't.
this
Like
tire
that's the thing.
compound is.
I don't get that. They don't though. I mean, it's a
They don't
motorsport. You
because
think they
it's
would, you know?
they don't embrace it. They are so hell bent, and they should be. They are so hell bent on giving quality racing, which right now it's not the best, but they're so hell bent in pushing it. Like, oh, we're gonna see side by side racing, and so that's what they talk about. You hear them always try to push. Oh, we're gonna see 3 wide, 4 wide, but they don't talk about like the actual track or the cars, or they don't do that a lot anymore. So and I'm not, by the way, I'm not like criticizing Mike Joy. Like, he's fantastic. I'm just saying there's a way to do it. uh F1 does it absolutely perfectly if you want to be a professional sport. Right now NASCAR is searching for entertainment more than sport, so the directions are clearly different, and one is going this way and one's going that way, so
Yeah.
it's very clear to see what's going on.
So really quick, Radman, before you head out, we have a super chat from Dancing Yeti Gamer 2003 with the $5 Canadian super chat. So I appreciate it, man. He says, "Hey Radman, glad to see you doing well. Do you think 2021 is going to make or break NASCAR?"
No, it won't make or break it. Uh, NASCAR will always be around. There's always gonna be fans. It's not gonna change. Um, it's just gonna get smaller as it has. They have to downsize a little bit. Uh, but it's still gonna be there. If they don't go the right direction, and people are gonna wait till it actually happens, and then say if it's the right direction or not. When they publicly say what the car is and the specifications of it and the schedule and everything, then we can know if it's the right direction or not. I don't have to see a single race in 2021 to know whether it'd be the right direction or not. Um, but it won't make or break it. It would just delay things. So like then you wouldn't, the current direction of the current regime. You'd have to stick with it for a decade or so. I mean, 2035, someone could come up and NASCAR could be really good again. And yet, it's all opinions. So like, it's not going to be a make or break. It's a really big year for them. They're going to shake up the schedule, try to go to different tracks, maybe shorten the schedule, do a lot of different things that I think they should do. And I think they should talk about it more publicly with their fans and their drivers. Well, publicly with their fans, privately with the drivers and the teams, about everything. And then when they decide on what they decide, it'll be a big year, but it's not make or break. I'm all for shorter schedule, going to one track only per year. So like Texas doesn't have 2 dates and Phoenix doesn't have 2 dates and all that stuff. Those are big things. Shortening the races as well. I'm big on that. But this is something they have to work on, and then obviously the specifications of the car. Will they put the horsepower back in? Will they not? It's all up to them. It's a big year, but it's not like if they don't get it right, it's like, oh, NASCAR's dying. It's not. That's not gonna. It's never gonna die. So it's like it's big, but yeah. If I can answer the question, it's a big year, not make or break.
All right. Just wanted to say before you head out, thanks, man. Thanks to Real Radman for coming on. Appreciate you giving your insights on some of this stuff. I know you haven't watched much NASCAR this season, but it's still good to see you talking about it. And yeah, appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you guys. I will be back soon. Don't know the exact date, but soon. I'll be back soon. I'll talk about NASCAR again. Probably a little bit more hostile than I used to be honest. I have a lot that I've been holding in, as you could tell, that I kind of released here. So,
That was a major release. It was a major release.
Yeah, I'll be back soon. Yeah, I promise.
We've awoken a sleeping giant.
Yeah, I wish they'd listen to me though.
Yeah.
We do too.
Yeah.
All right, take it easy, man.
Good having you on, man.
All right. So that was Real Radman, guys, and I just realized it's only us now. Is this a BS stream or?
Minus the S part, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, so now I can't do that anymore. I can't cuss anymore. But yeah, I got to say really quick, I love having Radman on. Every time he's on, he brings a good perspective. I think definitely, I don't think what he's saying is negative. I think it's just critical, and I think that's something that NASCAR needs to hear at this point. And like I said, I think that NASCAR has awoken a sleeping giant in Radman. So I can't wait till he comes back and starts doing those NASCAR car reviews again, because it's gonna be really fun. And I think we're gonna just flat out gonna hear what he thinks and no holding back. So
yeah, we're gonna hear the real Radman. He's definitely gonna rip them another one. So we have 278 people watching and only 120 likes. So don't forget to lick the like button, guys. Let's get it up to 200. Let's see if we can do that.
Yeah, lick that like button.
All right.
What we got now?
All right, so the next thing, it was actually a perfect segue into our next topic. And really quick, by the way, I forgot to read the super chat from Brandon. He says, I wish NBC had the whole season. What do you think about that?
I'd be fine with it, but at the same time, I do like having some difference. I just wish that Fox would be more professional. I think that even though they joked around a bit, they still were pretty professional back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s. It was really around that nosedive period in ratings when they went just overboard on the goofiness.
Yeah. And speaking of goofiness, Darrell Waltrip, it's been rumored late last week and also early this week that he's possibly going to retire from the Fox Sports broadcast booth after 2019. Throughout the week, we've seen some various articles written about him. For example, Jenna Fryer wrote something about him saying like, oh, it's probably time for him to go. And then you had people like Dave Moody like defending him, saying like, oh, like you guys need to get off his back. He's done so much for the sport. And now all of a sudden we have this clash between analysts and fans on Darrell Waltrip all of a sudden, which is like, it's so random to me. I mean, the guy's been out of NASCAR, or he hasn't driven a car since 2000, and he's only been a broadcaster since 2001. And now all of a sudden we're having these debates on whether or not people can tolerate Darrell Waltrip. I don't know. I guess to give my opinion really quick, I feel like you can be critical of him and still be a fan of his. Like, I'm a fan of Darrell Waltrip's, and I'm sure Jared is as well. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, I mean, what does he bring to the table in today's NASCAR? As far as information goes, and the whole the technical part of the sport. He hasn't driven a NASCAR since 2000. Jeff Gordon's more he's better in those regards because he's more recently retired. I feel like Darrell Waltrip's his criticism the criticism of his has been fair and it's warranted. What do you think, Jarrett?
With this whole story altogether, I just want to preface it with I as critical as I am of Darrell Waltrip, and I think people should be critical of him for the reasons that we've stated and what Radman said and what Danny and Eric have also said beforehand on this stream before. I still really like Darrell Waltrip. When I met him, he was one of the nicest people in the sport I've ever met. And how many other sports does one of the top 10, arguably probably top 5, arguably top 5 greatest
I'd say top 10
sport ever stop and give a minute to some 13-year-old, who when they're in a hurry to do something, to go on TV. So this is, again, no disrespect to Darrell Waltrip for all he's done. And I've been quite critical of Jenna Fryer before. I'm not her biggest fan, but she brings up a completely valid point here. I don't see any reason why. I think both these sides are right and wrong, and I'm not saying that to sit the fence. I'm saying that because I feel like that girl from the hard shell, soft shell taco commercial asking why can't we have both? Because you can be critical of Darrell Waltrip as a broadcaster nowadays, the same way people were critical of John Madden when he would say stuff like, usually the team with the most points wins the game. Stuff like that. Darrell Waltrip is much closer to that than he is to Tony Romo.
Oh, yeah.
At the same time, though, Jenna Fryer said nothing wrong. Nothing whatsoever wrong. I felt like she was actually much more respectful than most people who have written articles similar to this have been. And that's another thing. A lot of, I think with the Dave Moody part of it, Dave Moody is right, but he is off target with what he's talking about with it.
He's off topic. He's off target on a lot of things. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, we can debate on all that stuff and whatnot, but really quick, Danny B's been cited. He'll yeah. So but to go back on the Moody point, he's right that we need to be respectful of Darrell Waltrip. We need to appreciate what he's done and also see what good he does the sport. I think Darrell Waltrip being prevalent in the sport is a good thing. Do I think him though as a broadcaster is a good thing? No. And when someone like Moody or some of these other people only focus on that negative and the bad things that happens, I think it casts NASCAR fans in a horrible light. I think NASCAR fans this week have been cast in a much worse light than they actually are a majority. I think you're giving you're giving way too much attention to the people yelling in the back of the room when the rest are being civil. Here's to end my rant here, my flat out opinion on it. I would love to see Darrell Waltrip retire at the end of the year. Come on once every now and then, the same way that drivers like Bobby Allison or Richard Petty do. Stay as a face in the sport, and bring up Larry Mack and try and get that professionalism back. I want the last races as Darrell Waltrip as a commentator to be remembered as the end of a great era that might have went on too long, but still the end of a great era, and not remembered as finally he's retiring, ding dong, the witch is dead kind of deal. Like, I think we can have both, and I think we can all rationally think this without getting in each other's throats.
Yeah, right on the money with that. Sterling Simons with the $2 super chat. Thanks, man. He's asking, if DW retires, who would you like to replace him? Larry Mack. I'd like Larry Mack back in the booth and not in this whole. How did Auto Rockin' Racing 94 put it last week? The whole Rivera type, official type role, something like that. Ron Rivera, yeah, something like that.
I think you got to look at it from two ways. One, either you're looking at it from what's best for the booth, or if it's Fox, they're gonna look at it probably as a driver. Mike Pereira is what.
Mike Pereira. I don't know why I said Ron Rivera. He's the head coach. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I know what you were getting at though, but I think what would be best for the booth is Larry Mack. I think he can bring excitement while also being professional. I think that's when you saw Darrell Waltrip start to fall off majorly in favorability with the fans was when Larry Mack left. That whole chemistry was good and got something thrown in and messed up, and I don't think it was Jeff Gordon's fault. But if you're looking for Fox and getting another driver, if he's retiring soon, I'd love Kevin Harvick up there. I think he's one of the most professional drivers out there. Who do I think it's going to be? I don't think it should be this person, but I think Michael Waltrip's going to get moved to the booth. That's a rumor I've heard for years now. So,
Rocky 2689 with the $5 super chat. Thanks, man. He says DW has a place on Fox's coverage, but just maybe in studio, just not in the booth. I don't know. That seems reasonable.
Yeah, and I think with him, I mean, this is no disrespect to him. He's not getting any younger. I think it would be much easier on him physically as he gets older to be somebody who's in the booth in Charlotte and can stay involved in the sport, but at the same time doesn't have to put that strain of being an analyst. Because, I mean, it's like Alan Bestwick said, being an analyst, it looks easy. It looks like you just talk about something you like for 3 hours, but it takes a ton of work. It takes a ton of research, and for someone like Darrell Waltrip having to go to certain things and sponsor events and whatnot, it's got to take its toll on him by the end of the year.
I mean,
he looks tired.
You also have millions of people watching and criticizing you, like ourselves, unfortunately.
Yeah. I have nothing but respect for Darrell Waltrip. He's been involved in the sport for, 50 years now, over 50 years. Like, he deserves our respect. So the few fans who are disrespecting Darrell Waltrip need to stop, because I'll be honest, he deserves just as much respect as you would have given Dale Earnhardt if he were still alive. He deserves just as much respect as Cale Yarborough or Richard Petty or Jeff Gordon. He deserves that respect from us for what he has given to the sport. At the same time, I do think his time is up in the booth. I thank him for that too, but it's time.
Do you think that his most recent years have sort of hurt his legacy in a way?
Yes, I do, especially with younger fans coming up, because as a lot of these older fans continue to leave, and it's just because, I mean, as much as NASCAR's base is getting older, at the same time there have been stuff shown by Forbes. I think there was an article or two that there are younger fans in NASCAR, and it's a growing number. So as these younger fans come in, they're not going to know Darrell Waltrip as the great announcer we knew him as when we were, kids.
Or as Jaws, 85 wins, 3 championships.
Yes, or as Jaws. And I think that with a lot of younger fans, I think it will tarnish his legacy with them, which is sad. I think it's sad when anyone great's legacy is tarnished. Even someone like Bobby Labonte, at the end of his career, in my opinion, I think tarnished how a lot of people view him as a driver. He was a great driver.
And Terry Labonte as well, because he was
still
hanging around. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with any of them. So I hope that he's viewed favorably. I think he should be. But do I think he will by all the fans? No, that's just NASCAR fans in general. But I hope I'm proven wrong. I really do, because I like Darrell Waltrip, and the year he retires and he's not there for the Daytona 500, and we don't hear boogity boogity boogity,
they're gonna miss
it. You're gonna miss it, and it's just one of those things that I think a lot of people will appreciate what he was once he's gone, which is kind of sad.
I'm still in the minority when it comes to boogity boogity boogity. Like, I still love hearing that. I mean, that was basically my that was my whole childhood, man, just watching NASCAR Cup races and then up to now. And my mom still loves hearing that and stuff too. I mean, but like I said, you can be critical of him and you can still like him and stuff. But, if this is true, which I think it more than likely is, Darrell Waltrip, thank you for everything you've done for the sport, if you ever watch this. So, appreciate it.
And we're getting a 5th host. Okay.
I wish.
But just to put a button on all of this, I think it's honestly, I think the majority, 85, 90% of the people bringing arguments about this to it and bringing a different perspective, I think that in some way or another, all of them are right and wrong. I'm not sitting the fence here. I think that a lot of these points, there's a lot of good points that are buried under some BS. So that's me putting the final button on it. Thank you, Darrell Waltrip. And if it's not your last year, then it'll be good to see you in 2020.
Yeah, and always come on the podcast sometime, man.
Yeah.
So really quick, Ball So Hard Will 1994 with the $4.99 super chat. Thanks, man. I like that name, by the way. He says it sucks because DW was a great personality, and when NASCAR became national, he was on a downward trend in the 1990s. Even though he was a badass. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd say that. Like, most of the mainstream fans that came in the late '90s and early 2000s also knew DW as the guy who used to be great but is not so great anymore. He was just a back marker at that point. I will say though that. I will say though, probably his best years were when during that time was when he was subbing for Steve Park for DEI. Like, he had some of his best runs. There was even some interview after Pocono. I think he finished sixth, and Steve Burns was interviewing him there, and Waltrip got a little bit emotional there. He was like, everyone thought I was done and stuff, and put on a good performance and stuff. So that was pretty cool to see. All right, so moving on, Monster Energy. This isn't news. They're leaving the sport. Well, they're not becoming NASCAR's title sponsor anymore after 2019. But for 2020, there's a bit of a silver lining with that. Jarrett, what does Monster plan on doing?
From what the rumors are, it seems like they're planning on being one of the affiliate sponsors, similar to what like Coors Light is doing, and Geico being like the official insurance, the official beer. So Monster, from what the rumors are, is looking to being the official energy drink sponsor of NASCAR. And to me, this just screams that we're going to this new rebrand. This is one of the good things I like about what NASCAR is doing. We have been critical, but this is one of the things I like. I think that they're going to go to just the NASCAR Cup Series, and then each week it'll be presented by so-and-so. So, like, I think, the Daytona 500, the NASCAR Cup Series presented by Advanced Auto Parts brings you the Daytona 500 kind of thing. I don't think they're going to have a title sponsor anymore. I think that, unfortunately, for what NASCAR is going for, that business model is a little outdated, and I think that I know it's a little bit of a hot take, and I know that other racing series do it, and they're fine for the most part, or are doing well with it. But I think at this point, with where NASCAR is going, they want to be more of an entertainment division. You got to be known as the Cup. And if you look at the last 15 years, NASCAR has been known as the NASCAR, or not 15, more like, no, well, 16, been known as the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. People need to know, and again, for major fans and for diehard fans, they're obviously going to know what that is. But for somebody watching, like, I had friends that watched their first races last year, and they're like, I thought it was the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. I'm like, well, it's the same thing, different, and you have to explain the different names, all this stuff. So I think that long term, especially with how short of attention spans people have, I think that this is a good move to have NASCAR Cup Series, and I think that's the major thing we should be viewing with Monster reducing its role. I think it's beneficial for everyone involved.
This is This will be the first time 2020 will since 1972 that NASCAR doesn't have a title sponsor.
Maybe again, it hasn't been confirmed.
I mean, the thing is, though, I feel like they're moving in the right direction with this business model. I think what they're doing is they're trying to find like 5 major corporations, major sponsors, trying to sort of fill in the gap.
I think it was like 11. I could be wrong. I could be pulling this out of my butt. I don't know, but I think it's 11 was the number I heard. And Danny says in the chat that he'll be on in 5. Yep. So people only listening on SoundCloud, shameless plug. Yeah. If you hear a different voice, it's Danny. So or maybe Eric. Maybe Eric will pop in for him. But yeah, that's sort of my take on it, with the fact that it's gonna be changing a lot. And I think that the changes we had just with points and stuff, and with a few drivers here or there in the end of the 2000s and in the 2010s, I think it's gonna be nothing compared to the amount of changes we're gonna have in the 2020s. And like Radman said, only time is gonna tell whether it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I gotta give it to NASCAR for at least trying another business model. I mean, the current one we have now isn't gonna sustain us through the next decade or even 2 decades. So, props to them for at least trying something a little bit out of the box, you know, in terms of what they do. So appreciate that. But yeah, Danny will be on in 5 minutes, and another promotion. The NASCAR Weekly Podcast is officially on SoundCloud. The link is in the description below. Go watch it. Only season 2 was on the podcast so far. We're gonna keep adding more episodes as season 2 goes on. We hope to eventually have all of season 1 on there sometime. So be on the lookout for that.
And then also in the description, there's the link to the playlist on YouTube. So if you wanna look at our beautiful faces and Darian, you can you can do that too.
You're freaking out of line. I'm the most handsome as dude on this podcast, bro. What you mean?
All in opinion. Anyway, what's our next topic?
Hey, good black don't crack. That's all I gotta say. Anyways, the next topic. Moving on. Some unfortunate news here. Austin Wayne Self has been indefinitely suspended for violating NASCAR's substance abuse policy. They weren't specific in what the substance was. I don't think it's really fair of us to really go into detail, like go into some sort of opinion on what it was. You know, it's obviously banned from NASCAR, so he has to go through the whole NASCAR's Road to Recovery program. I gotta be honest, like something was a bit fishy when Bubba Wallace was like summoned to drive the 22 truck for both Martinsville and Texas. Like I don't know, like Austin Wayne Self, that's his car. I mean, that's his truck right there, man. I feel like I think his family funds that as well. I don't know if the family owns the race team per se, but I believe they sponsor him in some sort of way. Jared, what do you think?
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I could be wrong. I was kind of hoping this was an April Fool's joke.
Yeah, people thought it was an April Fool's joke from Bob
chat,
Puckers.
Yeah. In the chat, I'm looking, and NASCAR fan 93100 says I thought the Austin Wayne Self news was an April Fool's joke. I thought it was too, and something that isn't an April Fool's joke is Danny B being here. Danny, what are your thoughts on the Austin Wayne Self suspension?
Unfortunate. I mean, we saw it last year with Spencer. If I guess the old saying is, you can't do the time, don't do the crime. So
stay off the weed.
Well, here's what I'll say. I know it's a joke, but for everyone that's kind of at this point, until we get the details of it, I don't want to say too much because it could be like an AJ Allmendinger situation here.
Right.
You know, it could be just a medication deal. They didn't tell us what one it was, at least not any of the stuff that I read. It could just be weed. It could be something worse. We don't know what it could be. But I hope that he gets back. You know, I don't think, especially if it was a mistake, I hope he gets back. I hope it was a mistake. I hope that just so his reputation isn't ruined. But if it was, it's do something wrong like that, you got to pay the price. It's, you know, people's lives are at the line, whether it's in the stands or next to you. So if it was something like that, then I think NASCAR has every right to do this.
Well, I mean, just I don't know if this makes it any better. I mean, we've seen worse like situations. For example, Aaron Fike used to shoot up heroin before his races. This is a true story. Like, go look it up. Like, you know, he used to have stuff like that. You know, Shane Mill used to get high before his races as well. You know, doing dangerous stuff like that. So, you know, it could be a lot worse and stuff. And wish Austin Wayne Self nothing but the best, and hopefully he can get back. Really quick, Tyler.
I'm just saying, if it is something serious and he can't come back, I hope he gets the help he needs for it.
Yeah, you know, I'm a firm believer in second chances, so, you know, hopefully he can come back and continue his racing career. But Tyler Johnson with the $4.99 super chat, appreciate it. He says, drugs don't ruin careers, drug tests do. Spencer Gallagher. Wow.
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 wow, just wow.
Anyway, what's our next topic?
The next topic is probably the biggest news of the day. 2020 Xfinity Series and Gander Outdoors Truck Series schedule is out. Some of the major changes involve the Xfinity Series
Mhm.
Returning to Martinsville, and also, this is my favorite, the Gander Outdoors Truck Series for the first time since 2004 returns to Richmond. What are your thoughts on these changes? I'm stoked. I can't wait to see the trucks in Richmond.
Way past when they should have come. That's my
Yeah.
mistake. I mean, more short tracks, the better. The truck series, in my opinion, should be more short tracks. It should be if we're gonna do this feeder car system, this feeder league system. I think there should be more short tracks the further down you go. So
I have believed for a little while with the setup that they have in these Xfinity cars, because the Xfinity cars put on a pretty good show at tracks like Bristol and even New Hampshire. They put on a fairly good show. Iowa, they do. I think this is a great move, and I think that may be race of the weekend.
Yeah, I like the Xfinity series at Martinsville as well. They haven't raced there since 2006 when they did a one-off race there. Fun fact about that race, I believe that set the record for most cautions in one Xfinity series race with like
I believe, what was it, it was 100 and something mile race.
there was
and
like
they
22 cautions, I think.
Yeah, it's not 19, I think.
here, I'll share screen really quick, and even though NASCAR.com is awful, it keeps I hate this website.
It's
NASCAR,
awful. It's so
fix
awful.
everything online that you do.
Yeah. Damn, Radman got on you guys about the sanctioning body, and now Jarrett's getting on y'all.
Their website and their YouTube account have been pretty dumpster fire.
The YouTube account is worse, man, by far.
It's a
not even close.
dumpster fire.
Dumpster fire.
Dumpster fire. Okay. Anyway. So yeah, here's the schedule. It looks like they just, for the most part, mirrored Cup, which
Yeah,
I don't think
it's what we expected.
Vegas is getting 2 races, so I'm always happy about that, though.
Is Mid Ohio earlier, or is that or am I confused?
I think it's a little bit earlier, I believe.
I think it should be on the Cup schedule. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I see Pocono there. It's gonna be on the same day as the second Cup race of the weekend. So they're not doing 2 Xfinity races that weekend.
yeah. I
so
saw something about that.
Wow.
I guess I would assume that. Okay, they wouldn't want people like coming into the Cup race and sticking around for the Xfinity race afterwards. So they probably do the Xfinity that morning, I guess.
The I believe what they're doing is the doubleheader is what I'm going to call it, where you have the trucks and the Cup on Saturday, and then the Xfinity and Cup on Sunday is what I thought I heard on it. So Pocono's taking a pretty big undertaking with all this.
Yeah.
Actually, I take back what I just said. I had it the other way around. No, you wouldn't want them coming in for the Xfinity and staying for the Cup. So they have to do Cup first, and then the Xfinity series is like the main event of the weekend, I guess.
But you got the thing is, you got limited light with Pocono, especially if it rains. That is cutting it way too close if you have Xfinity afterwards. Even if it is a shorter race, because I mean, you look at the Cup Series, how many of those Cup races at Pocono have been rained out or just even postponed for a few hours because of rain?
A lot.
That's Pocono might not have been the best place to put 4 races in 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh,
I'm just waiting for the shit show when there's a full rain delay and they have to push back every one of these races. So.
See this 4.
Unfortunately,
that's how many people will be in the stands for that race.
I don't know. That puts on the best race over there. So
you're being a bit generous. Yeah, you're being a bit generous with that, I think.
But it's the 4th of July. It's the 4th of July. Yeah.
Well, that's going to be interesting with their package there, because we've only ever seen that like in the fall at this point. So we don't really know how it's going to do when the track's going to be a lot hotter.
Oh my gosh. Hold on. Scroll down. Hold on. All right. Stop. You see that? They're starting the playoffs the same weekend as the Cup Series. Finally. About time. They should have done that earlier.
And then it just goes. I mean, it mirrors the Cup schedule. The
playoff is exactly the same.
Aside from Martinsville being put back on, I don't see any reason to freak out about this. It's basically the same schedule. And then I'll look up the trucks really quick. Hopefully the website won't glitch out on me.
By the way, talking about that Martinsville race, one of the biggest things that I saw was make sure Kyle Busch isn't racing. Guys, it's a playoff race. He won't be allowed.
Cryo
Thank-
Bush.
Thank God. Thank
Yeah.
God.
Thank goodness.
Alrighty. Maybe Junior can. He's always wanted to do a truck
Honestly,
race.
I'm already thinking about it. I'm like, that's got to be it. That's got to be the one he runs in.
Right.
These darn leeches. Those broadcasters shouldn't be leeching.
Yeah.
Now, I won't even be mad if Junior shows up and just wins it.
Oh, really quick. I want to share a screen really quick. I want to show you guys something. I
Well,
found
really
funny
quick.
really quick.
Well, just let's. I mean, this is basically just the
Just
same
really
thing.
quick.
here.
Wait, just really quick. This is
So,
how they found
let's
Pocono. This is how they found
Oh,
Pocono,
yeah.
by the way.
Yeah. Apologies for those listening on SoundCloud, but basically the truck series schedule is aside from adding in Richmond is pretty much the same. So hopefully you guys are happy with that. And then
They
yeah,
did
I don't know.
They did get rid of that whole 3-week period with no truck races.
It's a 2 week now.
Or
It's
2 week,
February
okay.
21st at Las Vegas, and then they go to Atlanta. So the less offs you have, the better. And I think I'm echoing a little bit.
Just a teeny bit. So someone has the podcast on. Yeah, I can hear myself. I don't know. I think that was Danny. Was that you?
I don't know. I've got headphones in, so I'm not hearing anything else but us.
Oh.
Okay. Anyway.
But yeah, so that's the whole schedule. I think for the most part, it's a pretty good schedule. I like it. Like I said last year, I feel like 2020 is the rebirth of NASCAR as a whole, and I don't know. I think I'm right on the money with that, probably.
I hope you are. I hope you are.
All right, so let's check the likes and stuff. We have 241 watching, and only, let me update it, only 170 likes. So make sure to click the like button.
Oh, and then super chat $2.
Super chat. Yep.
Yeah, for boy Jack says NASCAR at Circuit of America. I want it to happen. I know I'm in the minority, but I think that would actually go extremely well the first few years, though it has the potential of being another Indianapolis situation.
Yeah.
After I watched Eric's vlog from his weekend at Circuit of Americas, and then he went to another race back last year, I was like, I mean, I guess I hadn't really, I've heard of the track, but I hadn't really watched it. It was like, I was looking kind of the layout. I was like, that's actually a pretty, that's a really nice facility track right there. That looks like it would be great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Finally, someone on my side.
No, I'm on your side. I feel like they should race there.
Okay,
Like,
good. You're on my side.
The facilities look modern. Like even I showed it to my fiance, and she's like, for a road course race, that looks like it'd be a fun place.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't understand because like there seem to be plenty of places that NASCAR could have passing zones for racing. It seems like it's modernized facility. It's one of the best in America. I don't understand how we're in the minority of people wanting to go there. I think that a lot of it has to do with NASCAR media putting it down, especially with Eddie Gossage, and they had to sign that deal of no track within like 300 miles of TMS. Yeah, well, because that racing would blow Texas Motor Speedway out of the water. I would love it. I think it would be a great draw, especially if you replaced the first Texas race of the season with that. I think it would be great.
See, I don't even think it'd be an issue with attendance because you look at fans like Eric. He's went to everything around him. So,
and then I see in the chat Tyler Johnson kind of brings up a good point of track too long, but I mean we got Road America. If this track's longer than 4.1 miles, then I must be misinformed. But I don't think it is, and I think you could probably make different configurations of it. So I think it'd work. I think it'd work really well.
I want Canadian Tire on the schedule so bad. So bad.
Well, the rumor is more road courses and short tracks on the schedule soon. Maybe we'll all be happy. Maybe NASCAR will bring us all together.
Yeah.
Let's just combine it all, and instead this weekend at Bristol we're gonna run the Broval.
The Broval.
Oh yeah, it'll be the PewDiePie 500.
Yeah.
And anyway, speaking, we want to talk about a little sponsorship news with teams. So sort of, I mean, I got two. If you guys are cool with me reading them.
Oh yeah, go ahead, man.
Dude Wipes is on the 32 car. That's all I need to say. Look up the car.
Dude.
And then Tyler Reddick is gonna be driving probably what's gonna be my favorite car of the year. It's the Dolly Parton Chevy.
I'll be honest.
That die cast.
I want that diecast, and if Lionel's not gonna make it, I'll go to my custom guy for it.
If that diecast is made and it doesn't play 9 to 5 or Jolene every time I open up the hood, I'm gonna be mad.
Jolene, is that how that song goes?
Yeah,
What I'm wondering is why did it take this long for Dolly Parton and Dollywood to do this? Like that's like
Seems like a
perfect for that
no-brainer.
area.
Seems like a
Like
no-brainer.
for Bristol Motor Speedway, that is perfect for them.
I find this so funny though because earlier this week I follow this channel. I'm gonna go off a little tangent here called it's a funny story. It has a payoff. It's called Fact Fiend with Carl Smallwood. It's hilarious. This channel is awesome. If you love British humor, you'll love this channel. And I was watching it, and it was a video on Dolly Parton, and what it was is that Dolly Parton lost a lookalike contest to a 6 foot tall man. It was a drag queen lookalike contest of Dolly Parton, and just watch the video. I'll tweet out the video after this. It's a really funny one. But apparently, long story short, she didn't have big enough hair or certain features in front, and she was told that by the winner of the competition. So I just that popped up in my feed in my subscription feed this week, and then like 2 days later, after watching that video, Dolly Parton's sponsoring a car. And the person who said the story originally was Dolly Parton, so she had a pretty good sense of humor about it. So yeah, I'll support that. Hey, everyone keeps telling me I need to support other places like Planet Fitness and stuff that I don't want to support, but I'm going to support Dolly Parton.
Yeah,
because she needs it, obviously.
I think
So
Dylan Smith told us that on
Twitter. If you're coming into the Tennessee area, go check out Dollywood while you're in town.
Yeah. Go ahead. Let's do that on Bristol weekend when all of us are down. We'll all go to Dolly.
Oh gosh, if it wasn't like 2 hours away, I mean.
Support Dolly.
Really quick, John Smith with the $2 super chat. He's asking, how would you feel about the Cup Series at Road America? I think we said we would love to have it on there.
And Father Heat in the chat, is that a Johnny Cash shirt that I'm wearing? Yes, it is.
Yeah, easy.
Awesome.
You wore that last week, I think, or a couple weeks back.
I wore it like 2 months ago, something like that.
Yeah,
it's a nice shirt. Why wouldn't I wear it?
No, it's a badass shirt. Pretty badass shirt there, man.
You know it's a good shirt when it's a country artist and everyone around campus actually likes the shirt.
All right, so moving on here. So the Wood brothers have had a pretty decent season on track. Off the track, though, it hasn't gone so well. Their hauler was recently in a highway accident. Danny, what was the severity of the accident?
So it's untelling, but from what Wood Brothers Racing tweeted out, they retweeted a screen image that was, I guess, picked up on like the news station's cameras or something like that. Their hauler was in some kind of accident somewhere on the interstate close to Birmingham, Alabama, I think. So and they tweeted out saying something that everyone is okay. The tractor, not so much. So I guess in that case, the truck part, I guess the truck is pretty bad damage, I guess, from what I read. I mean, maybe they're just not. Maybe they're wording their tweets wrong there. Maybe it's better than we really think, but
I don't know. Because at the same time, I saw some people were talking about going by there and had seen it and thought it was only minor damage. I'm hoping that's what it was because. Yeah. I don't want the teams to have to spend more money on stuff than they have to.
I will say this. I don't know if they got a new truck this year or if they're still using one from last year. If they are using one from last year, I hope they repainted that thing because, like, I know I went to – how many did I go to? I went to, like, 5 different races last year. And so the first one at Atlanta, truck was really bright, neon, and then, like, slowly throughout the season at Bristol, that thing was faded as can be. I'm thinking, gosh, I hope they repainted that truck or they got a new one.
Well, Bubba's, the last time I saw it during testing, it was just pitch black. That's literally it. It was just black.
That might have just, though, been they were just had bigger priorities at that point.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case.
I'm assuming that is.
Yeah. But I guess if worst comes to worst, I'm sure they get money from Penske, don't they?
Yeah, they're essentially like the fourth Penske car,
Yeah.
really.
Worst comes to worst, if they can't pay it off by themselves, I'm sure Penske will loan some money.
They couldn't have a 2 at the end of their number because of 21, so they couldn't be an official Penske car.
Yeah.
Speaking of Penske cars, really quick, I want to segue. Do you just have $30,000 lying around, anyone in the chat?
I wish.
If you do, you could buy Ryan Newman's 2007 Dodge Charger, and it is very nice car.
Okay.
Reference.
Okay, discount Felix.
No, I'm not even talking about PewDiePie here. This is older than PewDiePie.
Yeah.
But it's a nice looking car. I don't have a picture of it on me, but it's his Altel car, I believe. It looks brand new. The inside of it's beautiful. So maybe you don't have 30,000 lying around, anyone in the chat, but maybe you know someone who does. And if they want to buy a NASCAR race car, there you go. Here's a chance.
Or how about this? We'll have a ton of people in the chat donate a bunch of super chats to me and help me buy the car. Let's do it.
Or if you have 30 grand, you could just come buy a regular car from me.
Oh god, here we go. Where you work at again? Say it again.
Beeman Toyota in downtown Nashville, Tennessee. Come see Danny B.
You know what's funny? Before we go into our next topic, what's funny is the only other Beeman Toyota I know of is in Rockford.
Oh, wow.
Glockford. You mean Glockford?
Glockford, yes.
Yeah.
Glockford. Really quick before we get into the last bit of major stuff. So, who in here is a fan of Game of Thrones?
You know, my parents always get on me for not watching it, and especially my brother.
Don't watch it with them; it's awkward to watch.
Yeah, I've only seen like the first 3 episodes of season 1, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's enough. I'm never gonna watch it with them ever.
I saw it with my parents. But who here likes Mountain Dew or drinks any Mountain Dew or has drank Mountain Dew?
I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew.
I've actually got a Mountain Dew Baja Blast.
All right, who here knows or likes Dale Earnhardt Jr.?
Ooh,
I like Dale Earnhardt Jr.
I like
All
Easton
right.
Jr.
All right. Well, we all have that in common, and what do all those things have in common is that Mountain Dew put out a commercial both for them and for Game of Thrones, and there's a bunch of celebrities in it, a bunch of famous people, and one of whom is Dale Earnhardt Jr. So if you haven't seen that, check that out. That's pretty cool. Darian, do you have the fantasy stuff up?
I'm about to pull it up. So while I do that, distract the chat with something else.
Well, speaking of baby faces like you, Darian, there's babyface Sloppy in the house as he's putting it in the chat.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
that's right.
See, everyone has noticed you shaved.
That's right.
I do have one thing to say since we're talking about soda brands and NASCAR and everything. So I read an interesting Facebook post in a group I'm in this week. It was in a group for NASCAR diecast collectors. Well, you know, Pepsi allows Hendrick Motorsports and Lionel to make all of their, Mountain Dew, Pepsi cars and all that. Coca-Cola has kind of backed off their allowment for teams and companies to reproduce cars with that theme. One car that had a lot of people really wanting it last year was the Coca-Cola paint scheme that Austin Dillon ran last year.
Mm-hmm.
So many people went to custom producers of these cars, and I read something that one person who produced a car for someone with Coca-Cola actually had local sheriffs show up, and they pressed legal charges on him for reproducing a Coca-Cola car. Coca-Cola went after this guy for this.
No way. They brought the sheriff? Yep. They put the sheriff down to do that?
They didn't bring the deputy, though. Coca-Cola Big Brother confirmed.
Wow.
So just thought that was interesting.
That is.
So there's some more ammunition if you want Carnation to do the Coca-Cola versus Pepsi.
That's crazy. Why? Why would they do that? Like, it's not that deep.
I guess it's because the guy, he did it, and he did it for profit, and Coca-Cola's got a big issue with that.
Oh
man, you thought PewDiePie was in trouble with the Indian Mafia. Jeez, don't cross Coca-Cola.
For real. All right. So let's bring up the NASCAR Weekly Podcast fantasy standings. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's get the Cliff Notes on this.
All
That
right.
looks like racing reference.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. I have it open for another reason. Yeah, sorry guys. So these are the standings as of right now.
Who is Chuck has a sister? Oh, Jimmy 48 fan. Okay, I was about to say.
All right, so Tyler's in the lead of that's not Kamikaze, is it?
No, maybe just do top 10 and then just do noticeable outside the top 10.
All right, so Tyler's first. Kato YouTube is second. My mom's third. She's still whipping our ass. Winner 68 is tied for fourth with Larson Line 42. Super Shark is in sixth. Bubba Goodrich is in seventh. Mason Shell 24 is in eighth. Kyle Eats Dirty Bush.
Oh my gosh!
I can't believe I said that out loud. Kyle Eats Dirty Bush is number 9.
Oh gosh!
I know what I'm gonna say. I know I'm gonna start sending super chats to Darian that just say things that seem random but aren't.
Oh, live broadcasting is fun, guys.
Yeah, and then last but not least, Chuck has a sister. Yeah, Chuck has a sister. Yeah, Jimmy 48 fan is rounding out the top 10, and let's take a look.
You do know you're gonna start seeing these names changing week after week, so we'll say something.
Yeah, probably.
The top 10 though.
Yeah.
I love that Alderaan inside job. It was.
All right, so some notables outside of the top 10. Oak 32 Assassins 16th. N2SC4 is 20th. I've moved up all the way from 27th to 22nd, so big jump in improvement for myself. Eric Estep is 26th. Racing Fan for Life 18, 35th. Let's see. Showman the Bowman's 41st.
Alaskan Yankee, I recognize that name.
Reverend Rashim is in 46. NASCAR on MDK is 49th.
Cody's 48th.
Oh, sorry. I forgot about you, Cody. My bad. Yeah, Cody H Gaming is in 48th right now. My bad. Let's see. Runnings Racing's 54th. Brendan Littell Gaming's slacking. He's 57th.
Yikes, I see that guy in 67th.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm in the top 2/3.
Oh, yeah, 67th. The current the reigning Core Series champion, D-Ray, is in 60th. Not having the season he would have hoped in the NASCAR Weekly Podcast Fantasy League. 60,000 K, 68th. And I think this is Kamikaze right here, is it?
79.
Yes, I think so.
All right, so this might be Kamikaze. The might be Kamikaze is in 79th. So.
I can't believe it, guys. Michael Waltrip Racing is back, and they're running in 85th.
Oh,
right. 2000. What was it we said? Back to 2007 form.
Yeah, right where they need to be, probably. Right there. So they're running 85th. Kyle Busch's Babysitters in 91st. And then and Carnation hasn't even done yet. Yeah, the starting parks are currently running out the final 4 spots.
Carnation, you're first of the starting parks. Good job.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into mine too much, but the Larson fan is currently leading mine. My fiance is in 5th, and here I am down in 21st.
Right there. So let's see. Let's look at the points really quick. Kyle Busch is in the lead. Kyle Busch, Hamlin, Keselowski, and Logano are the only 4 guys who have their spots locked in. Let's see. Let me zoom in a little bit. Kevin Harvick's 5th, having a quiet year. Eric Almirola 6th. Martin Truex Jr. 7th. Ryan Blaney 8th. Chase Elliott 9th. Kurt Busch, who has all of a sudden become the best Chip Ganassi driver on the team, is in the top 10. Clint Boyer 11th. Kyle Larson 12th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 13th. Daniel Suarez is in 14th. Over Jimmy Johnson, currently in 15th. And rounding out the top 16 is the one and only Eric Jones. So
real quick, I see you have a $2 super chat from Monday Morning Racer, and it's a question for me. Danny B, been to the pharmacy in Nashville. I have not had a chance to go to the pharmacy. It's pretty good from what I understand. Maybe I'll have to try and do that sometime.
Wait, what's the Oh, it's just a pharmacy or?
Yeah, I think my fiance's been to it, but I haven't had a chance to go to it yet. But it's pretty good burgers, and I think I've heard they're.
Oh, it's a burger place. Okay, I thought you were talking about the pharmacy, like the.
No, it's just called the pharmacy. So hey,
in Bristol.
I was gonna say that may be our Nashville thing to do.
Yeah.
We'll go right after the podcast. How about that?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, that sounds perfect. Let's do that, man. I'm always hungry after the podcast. all the time.
Yep.
So there's not really much else to discuss this week, unfortunately. So you guys want to get into your picks, or a little too soon?
Yeah.
All right. So
Let's pick.
yeah.
Pick 'em.
All right. Let's pick them. So we're going to Thunder Valley, the one and only Bristol Motor Speedway.
I literally am going to Thunder Valley.
Yeah, he's gonna be there. Hopefully it doesn't rain. There is some forecast, unfortunately.
As of this evening, I checked. It's looking a lot better. A high of 80 degrees, partly cloudy skies, and only a 20% chance of precipitation.
Nice.
All right, sweet.
That's a lot better than what I saw earlier in the week.
Actually, I'm just gonna double check to see if it's changed at all in like the last hour or so since I've checked it. I just want you to check it.
I'll go and I'll start off with who I think is gonna suck.
Okay, we're still the same. It's cloudy, a high of 80, a low of 62, 20%. It's gonna be a good day for racing at Bristol. If it's cloudy and temperatures are still gonna be that warm, we're gonna see a good show.
Well, I think someone who won't agree with that because they won't have a good show, and people are gonna disagree with me here is Brad Keselowski. Now people are gonna think Jared, he has 2 wins. Like, why are you thinking he's gonna suck here? Well, he's got, I think he's close to 20 starts at Bristol, and he has 4 top 5s, which isn't terrible. But of those top 5s, only one other is a top 10. He only has 5 top 10s. He finished 23rd and 16th at Bristol last year, and he has an average finish of 18.1. So I don't see the Deuce doing much this week.
I can say that he only really seemed good like back when he was still running the Dodge over there.
Hit or miss. I guess he always misses, huh?
Oh.
I got all these references tonight.
Oh.
Okay, Jared. When I see you for the first time, I'm deleting TikTok from your phone.
I don't have TikTok, but I'm basically a med from Community. There's another reference that most people probably don't get. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
All right.
Who else?
Let's move on to mine. Let's move on to mine now. I'm gonna go with so for who's gonna suck, I'm gonna go with it's kind of a toss up, but I gotta go with Alex Bowman here. Unfortunately, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Last year,
he ran well at Bristol.
Yeah, he went. Yeah, he did run well, but
really? His best track.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I mean, just going off of what he's done this year, he hasn't been as good as I'd hope. So I feel like he's gonna have some bad luck striking this week at Thunder Valley. So Alex Bowman's gonna suck.
Well,
out of the box. Well, I didn't think that would be like such a big thing. Now, if I said Kyle Busch is gonna suck,
I mean,
yeah.
the thing with that is like he was kind of the same last year, and then this is like the one track where that team just got it. But hey, we'll see. He's not my who's gonna suck pick. My who's gonna suck pick here is gonna be Martin Truex Jr. He's never won on short track. So far he's only had just like a few races where I think he like really had a good opportunity to do something, and I don't know, just not really seeing it come through. Maybe he's right. Maybe it's gonna be opposite, but no. I'm not saying it from him.
Okay.
All right. So underdog picks.
Underdog.
Yeah, who you got?
All right, I'm gonna say the name really quick. People aren't gonna get why at first, but I'm picking Ricky Stenhouse as the underdog pick. Now people are gonna wonder, Jarrett, how can you say that the person with that is an active driver with the best average finish at Bristol nowadays is an underdog at 11.3 average finish? Well, 1, he has never won at Bristol. 2, he has 4 top 5s and 6 top 10s, so he's batting 500, which baseball is good, but in NASCAR with tracks for top 10s isn't exactly great. And the big one that I saw is, and I had to double check this in my magazine, my trusty magazine, Ricky Stenhouse has never led a lap at Bristol. He's run up front. He's been close to the leaders a lot at Bristol. He's never led a lap at Bristol.
Really? Not one? At least one?
Not one lap.
Wow.
Not one lap.
I believe he led here back in the Nationwide Series, but that's about it.
Yes. Yeah, he did. But when it comes to the Cup Series, he just never has gotten over that hump of second. He's competed for wins here before. Like, let's not get it wrong. He's gonna do well, but I think he is one of those people who should not be overlooked for a win, and that's why he's my underdog pick.
Well, he's not gonna do good if I have anything to say about it. The Fastenal curse of Black Lives Matter still reigns.
He's running Sunny Day this week, and he'll be all right.
Oh, okay. Then I hope he does well. Go ahead. I hope he does great. We love Sunny D, man. Shout out to Sloppy Joe. But All right. So
Sloppy Muffet.
yeah, yeah. All right. So for my underdog pick, I'm gonna go with Ryan Preece here. Ryan Preece is one of the best short track drivers in the country. I know he's driving for JTG Daughtry Racing, or in my case, Dottie Racing. But Bristol, it really showcases a driver's true talent. You don't necessarily have to have the. What's so funny?
Nothing.
Okay, just kept laughing. All right, like you don't necessarily have to have the best equipment there. Bubba Wallace proved that last season. I'll even go as far as saying not only will he finish inside the top 10, he'll also lead some laps too for the first time this season. So yeah, I'll go that far in saying that. So Ryan Preece, that's my underdog pick. Good luck to him.
That's a fair argument. He did win the Xfinity Series race here last year in the spring, driving the 18 cars. That's a very fair argument. My underdog pick, though, much opposite to your who's going to suck pick, is Alex Bowman. He got a 5th place finish here in the spring last year and a 10th place finish in the night race last year. It's by far one of his best trucks. Don't see him quite being up there to win or anything, but I definitely see another top 10 run coming out of him. As far as the weather's looking, it looks fairly similar to a year ago, minus the rain, just cloudy conditions and, not too cold, not too warm. So I see this shaping up to be a good weekend for him.
All right, guys, the main event, the winner's picks. Jarrett, who's going to win Bristol?
Who's going to win Bristol? It's Bristol, baby. I look at the numbers a lot with this kind of stuff and who's going to win. I know that a lot of people in the chat agree with me, but I'm still going to read off some of these numbers. So 0 wins, 2 top 5s, 6 top 10s in his career at Bristol. But you're thinking, okay, only 2 top 5s. Those 2 top 5s both came last year. Those 2 top 5s were both runner-up finishes. And 2018 wasn't Kyle Larson's best year ever. We'll just say that. So I'm picking Kyle Larson to win. I think he breaks through. I think that he actually breaks through, and I'll even go off and say that he'll duel Kyle Busch for the win and finally win the Kyle and Kyle show. So Larson is my pick to win this week. I think he's going to finally silence some of these critics who are saying that Kurt Busch is the number 1 driver at Ganassi after only 7 races.
That was me.
That is very fair. Larson about got a weekend sweep here last year.
Mm-hmm. And I think he has a very good shot at getting that Bristol win this week.
Oh, go ahead, Danny. Go ahead.
No, I'm just like that's fair. That's fair.
Oh, okay. All right. For my winner, I'm sorry you can't go against the master here. Kyle Busch, good old Rowdy Busch, is going to win here once again. Just take a look at the last race. He was involved in the big one, in the last Bristol race on lap 2, and he still nearly came back to win that thing. Unfortunately, a tire had unfortunately went down on him, and he couldn't make that happen. But I'm sorry, man. He's the master of Bristol, man. And one thing I've learned is you never go against the master here. So Kyle Busch, that's my pick.
I'm going against the master because last year, I watched this man. I watched that man Kyle Busch. He didn't make it through in the end of the night race. And the guy I'm going with for this weekend, he's been pretty on some good momentum the last few weeks. A couple weeks ago, I think he probably actually had the quicker car at the end of it, just didn't work out. Last year in the spring race, he crashed out early. We didn't really get a chance to see what he could do because of an incident in front of him. And then in the night race, he honestly, again, I think he was probably quicker than the actual car that won it. He just couldn't quite get up there due to circumstances. And he led for a while in the night race. I'm going with Chase Elliott getting his first win at Bristol this weekend.
I think that's a very good pick. I think that Elliott seems to, because I almost picked, just looking at the numbers, you look at it and be like, oh, Elliott's going to suck. But it's like, then you look at how he's done in that time. And it's like, leading up to it, it's like, yeah, that's a very fair assessment, very fair pick. I'm not going to pick him. I think that one of the Kyles is a much safer pick. But I also, just as throwing this out there, he's doing arguably better than he did last year, and he did pretty well He did pretty well at Bristol last year. Look out for Jimmy Johnson. You know, he showed signs of life at Texas, which he lacked last year. So who knows? You know, maybe Bristol's breaking through.
This is the site of his second to last win. 2 years ago, he won this race, and the track he did get his last win is just a mile version of this track at Dover. So
Yeah, what's funny is even in his prime, like Jimmy Johnson still had a bit of a tough time with Bristol. He
yeah,
didn't get his first win until 2010, actually.
Yep, he's only had 2 wins, both in the spring, both in kind of similar conditions on cloudy days.
Yeah, so that's definitely an interesting take on it. We got anything else, or we just want to sort of plug in everything we got left?
I think that's just about it for me. Again, make sure to click the link down and in the description below for the NASCAR Weekly Podcast on SoundCloud. So make sure to tune into that. And when is this one going to be on SoundCloud, though, Jarrett?
Yeah, that probably will get done and on there maybe by middle of the night. At the latest, it'll be up tomorrow night for sure. So if you got people who only want to listen on SoundCloud, or if you want to listen to us again but you don't want to look at us, go ahead and go on SoundCloud. It'll probably be up, by tomorrow morning. So have fun on there.
I want to go ahead and promote one thing. I want y'all to keep a close eye out on Griff Dog's channel soon. He's gonna have a pretty special video.
Yep.
I don't want to get into it too much, but I just want to say we had the opportunity to do something pretty cool for him. Y'all are gonna want to see this.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, man. I'm glad I was a part of that as well.
And Darren, who's going to be the guest next week?
I don't know. I don't know.
You're the one who got him on.
Oh, is it the guy earlier? Wait, hold on. Next week's the 10th, right?
The 10th.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, sorry. I forgot. I was like, I don't know. I don't know who's gonna be on. Like, I was like,
Not a test, man.
but yeah, I forgot the 10th next week.
Yes.
But a good buddy of mine. Hopefully I say his name right. I always get his name wrong. Raj Karuth. I think that's his name. I think that's how you say it. It's either Ray Caruth or Raj Karuth. I think that's how you say his first name. He is a up and coming development driver in the NASCAR diversity program. He was just out there. I want to say a couple weeks back to do the little combine and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll be good to discuss some racing with him. He's also from the Washington, D.C. area, so be pretty cool to have him on. So can't wait. And that's going to be on whose channel, Jarrett?
Danny, are you still cool with that being on your channel?
Yep, that'll be fine. I'm scheduled till 6 o'clock that day, and as long as something doesn't happen last minute to keep me busy, we will be on my channel.
All right.
All right, man. So he'll be on next week, so that'll be a lot of fun. Look at us just planning everything right in front of everyone. This is usually a behind-the-scenes thing, but sort of have to change it up.
And for people who answer my poll about or not poll, but comment on YouTube about who they'd want on, I trust me, I took notes on that, and we've taken note on it, and some of the people that have been asked for in the description, or not the description, the chat, we do take notice of that, and we will work on a lot of that stuff, even the big ones. We'll work on even the biggest ones you guys ask for. So
we're always watching the chat all the time.
Always give us feedback as much as you can, whether it's on SoundCloud or on YouTube or wherever it is. Give us feedback. I'm not tired at all. Give us sound. Praise us. Yes. But yeah, I think that about has it covered. There's the 2 playlists down below for SoundCloud and on YouTube, so should be good.
I'm also seeing some get David Land back, and also get your urinating tree back on. They're going to be back on for sure this year. That's a given. Yeah.
Brendan's asking for the president. Yeah, that's gonna work. And Dale Jr. Have Dale Jr.
Dude,
I'll work on that.
If you want us to get him, well, we're gonna try.
If you want us to get him, then maybe ask him and his Ask Junior. I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, hey, if Carnation get him to say something about potatoes, then maybe he can get it for this.
Yeah, so go for it. Go on Ask Junior, and eventually he'll have to answer the question.
Yeah, we would really appreciate that, guys. So, I think that'll just about do it, right, guys? Or
Yeah, I
anything
think
else?
it's about time for an outro.
Yep, so it's about time to play that sick-ass outro by MDK. Again, guys, our peak tonight was 300 viewers, so that's not bad for this channel. And my internet held up, and now it's about to crash. It's about to crash. It's about to crash, so I got to get it over with. I got to get this over
Spirit
with.
of the Joker.
Real quick, I just want to plug this again. I am going to be at Bristol this weekend. If you're going to be there at all, please say hello. Don't be surprised if I look like I may be with like a TV crew. You'll just have to say you'll just have to say more on my vlog whenever it comes out.
Yeah, it's a cool little deal he has. I'm not gonna say it on stream, but
You're
from
fine.
what he's told us,
So
it's pretty cool.
you'll see me. I'll be wearing a black Bristol Motor Speedway shirt with a blue Nationwide hat. I'll be easy to recognize. Do not be afraid to come up and see me. I've read a lot of comments from people who have been at races I've been at, and they said, I think I saw you, but I wasn't sure. Didn't want to take a risk and come up and talk to this random guy. Just come up and talk to me if you think it's me.
There was even one guy who was just like eating ribs beside you, I think, in the last race, and he was like, "Oh, I thought that was you," or something like that. Right?
Yep.
So, all right, guys. So that'll just about do it. It's been an amazing stream tonight, and really appreciate it. And thankfully, the internet held up tonight for the first time in a long time. So that's a first. Anyways, guys, that'll do it for tonight's podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Black Lives Matter. Catch you next time. Cue the outro.
Green flag, our roll.